Hunter McCown, nice move, gains the line, on his forehand, gets around the corner, in front, he scores! What a trip up ice for Hunter McCown! How hot is he? Grimaldi wreaking havoc in the O-zone, delivers one to Madison Bowie, shoots, he scores! Bowie rips it from below the left dot! Goes out for Del Belpaloots, held the line. Navarro with 45 seconds left, back to Del Belpaloots, he'll rip it, he scores! Welcome everybody to another edition of Monsters OT, brought to you by Century Federal, right here on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Tony Brown here with you. We'll hear from Brad Thiessen and Nick Blazer in just a few moments. But we've got a big show for you today. We will discuss that big win that you saw recapped off the top of the show there on Wednesday, the 9th of April. A huge, meaningful victory for Cleveland over the Grand Rapids Griffins by a final of 4-3. In addition to that, though, we will hand out some end-of-season awards to Monsters players on this show today. We'll also see who's hot across the American Hockey League and wrap things up with our Monsters alumni segment presented by True North Convenience Stores. But like we always do, let's begin the show with headlines. All right, starting on headlines this week as we bring Brad Thiessen into the mix here. Thiess, let's talk about that big win on Wednesday over the Griffins. Some big performances there for sure. Hunter McCown had a couple of points. Rocco Grimaldi had 3 points, in fact, but a win. That's what the Monsters needed, and that's what they got. Yeah, it felt a little bit like a sleepy Wednesday night game in the first period there. Monsters down 2-0 early, but a pointed conversation, I think, from Coach Vogelhuber in the intermission kind of sparked the guys, and after that really played a really complete game for those last two periods. Yeah, and Jet Greaves played well too. He was coming off a shutout performance. This time made 19 saves, but he's won now 5 out of his last 6 starts for Cleveland. Top 5 in the league in a number of categories, including save percentage, total saves, shots faced, minutes played. He's logged huge minutes, and he has gotten better towards the end of the year. Yeah, he's really raised the level of his game as the season's gone on here. I think over the last 12 games now, his save percentage is close to 95%, which is pretty crazy for anyone, and he's been a rock for the team all season, and this is the time of year you want to be playing your best. Just want to talk briefly, too, about Rocco Grimaldi's game. 3 points in the game, a goal and 2 assists. His first 3-point game, and for a guy like him, he's got a lot of them, but his first since February the 15th. So it's great to get him going a little bit and feeling good heading into the playoffs. They'll need that production. Yeah, definitely. You love when those skill guys start getting their points and feeling that confidence, but I think there are some games this year where he probably deserved a few more points, and just puck wasn't going in for him or the other guys around him. So good to see it go to the back of the net here. And he's an important and versatile player, too, because he can play all over the lineup. We've seen him as low as the third line. Of course, he's been on the top line for most of the year, and then all he does on the power play, too. Just a guy you're going to need, you have a feeling, come the playoffs. Yeah, he is, and also a veteran presence, so he's been around. He knows kind of what everyone's going through right now this time of the year. So definitely an important part of the piece of the puzzle if Monsters want to have success. All right, let's keep it moving on headlines with the North Division standings. This time of year, this is really the only focus for all the teams across the league. So let's take a look at the North Division as it stands at the time of this taping. Brad, you've got Laval in first place with 93 points. They've clinched a spot in the postseason. Same for Rochester. They're in second, 4 points back. Then it gets really interesting. This is where all the battling is going on right now between 4th place Cleveland, 5th place Toronto, and then 3rd place Syracuse. Who will avoid the play-in? That's the big question. Yeah, that's what everyone's shooting for right now, and obviously a couple big games this weekend with the Marlies will go a long way in determining that, but every team is kind of in a similar position here, looking to stay out of that 4-5 hole. And let's give Belleville some credit, too. They won't go away. They came up with a huge come-from-behind win in Rochester recently, in which they scored 4 times in the third period to beat the mighty Amherst at home. So they want to have their say in who's going to make the playoffs this year. A reminder, the AHL Playoff Primer is updated daily. You can find it at theahl.com under the Standings tab. It's your best way to see who's in, who's out, and what the playoff picture is on a given day-to-day basis. So we look at the standings. Let's look at what's left on the schedule now. For the Monsters, there are just 5 games left in the regular season and only one more home game. And it kind of feels like it's part of the road trip because it's a noon game on Saturday the 12th that leads directly into a trip to Toronto for a rematch the next day. But when you look at the remaining schedule, Brad, 1 against Wilkes-Barre Scranton, 2 against Toronto. We'll talk about them in a minute. Lehigh Valley and Rochester, each with 1 game apiece left on the schedule. These are teams, with the exception of Rochester, that Cleveland's had their way with this year.
Yeah, obviously it's going to be a good feeling for the Monsters playing against some of these teams, knowing that you've had success. Obviously Wilkes-Barre, they just finished off a 2-game home sweep a couple weeks ago against them. So I think the Monsters can feel good going into these last 5 games knowing that.
Yeah, they're a combined, the Monsters are 10-5-4 this season against those remaining opponents on the schedule. We'll keep things moving on headlines now and talk about a couple of the new arrivals here, guys signing amateur tryout contracts with Cleveland. We've had a couple of guys like that, Guillaume Richard, Tyler Peddle, Rylan Mosley, but let's talk about 2 new faces here, and one of them, a goaltender. What can you tell us about Evan Gardner?
Yeah, Evan Gardner, 2nd-round pick from last year, playing with the Saskatoon Blades this season. Really good goalie, athletic, really reads the game really well. I've had the opportunity to go see him 3 different times this year and visit him in Saskatoon, and awesome for him to be able to be here now in Cleveland and get his first taste of pro life and pro hockey and practice and be around the team. So excited to be able to work with him here.
Yeah, both these guys actually 2nd-round picks just last year for the Blue Jackets. You see the numbers on Gardner, impressive, 23, 13-5 in 44 games. And then Charlie Elick, another guy who's been in the Western Hockey League, 36th overall pick a year ago. Now this is a defenseman, Brad, who's got some really good size.
Really good size, really good ability to move. He's more of the shutdown kind of defenseman. So excited to see him as well this week.
Yeah, split last season exactly evenly between the Tri-City Americans and then, of course, the Brandon Wheat Kings in the Western League. So good to have those guys on board. We don't know if they'll play or not down the stretch, but it's not about that, right, Brad? A big benefit to being here at this time of year for these young guys is just to soak it all in.
Yeah, that's really the message to these guys. It's huge for them to be able to come here and just get a lay of the land, the city, the staff, the other players that they'll be playing with eventually. So just their comfort level goes up a lot when they come here for good because of this situation now.
Luca Pinelli, great example, was around the team quite a bit down the stretch last year, and then he gets to step in this season at the end of his junior career, and it was really hand in glove. So
yeah,
it's meaningful time for all these guys for sure. Sorry, Tease. Let's keep it moving here on headlines now. More goaltending talk. Let's talk about the goalie shuffle, which is underway right now with Cleveland's Greaves, called up on the 10th of April and then played outstanding, helping to keep the Blue Jackets in playoff contention with a 39-save performance in their big 3-2 win over Buffalo on the 10th. But now he's out of the picture for the short term for the Monsters. Pavel Chayan recalled on the 11th.
Yeah, obviously awesome opportunity for Jet to get back in the NHL and play as well as he did against Buffalo. Handled it super well. He played with Cleveland the night before and back-to-back nights. Never know where things are going to take you, and he's so good at handling everything. But obviously Pavel Chayan coming back. Cincinnati wasn't going to be in the playoffs this year. Only had a couple games left in their schedule, so chance for him to get back here in the fold, and we'll see what the starts look like down the stretch here.
Yeah, Pav 2-2 in 4 appearances for the Monsters this year. 13-10-5, really strong season in the coast with 28 appearances there. Zach Sawchenko, we're not highlighting here because in terms of the transactions, he has stayed put with the Monsters. We'll expect to see him, especially with Greaves called up, but also Evan Gardner. Any chance he can sneak into a game?
Yeah, there's always the possibility of seeing what happens here down the stretch with the bodies, who's here, who's not, and obviously the different scenarios game-wise and standing-wise as well.
All right, well, one more item on headlines here before we take a break. Let's talk about Cleveland's big game hunter. That's right, it's Hunter McCown. He's now playing his best hockey of the year at the most important time, Brad. An active 5-game point streak. He's got goals in 2 straight games and has set new single-season career highs in goals, assists, and points. There's confidence that you can see in his game right now, but he just looks like he's trusting his skill set, which is formidable.
Yeah, and I think the success that he's having is due to him being a more complete player and being not so focused on just the offense, but really being able to, be a trusted guy defensively. He's killing penalties, doing other things like that, and the offense has kind of come because of it. So it's great to see him have that success.
Well, here's to hoping it continues in the final 5 games of the regular season and then onward into the Calder Cup playoffs. All right, with that, we'll take a quick break here on Monsters OT. When we come back, we'll hand out some end-of-season player awards, that and plenty more straight ahead, so stay with us. It's Monsters OT, presented by Century Federal on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Welcome back, everyone, to more Monsters OT, brought to you by Century Federal here on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. I'm Tony Brown. Coming up, our True North Convenience Stores Monsters alumni segment, but it's time for Nick Blazer, the Monsters digital guru, to tell us who's hot across the American Hockey League. Take it away, Nick.
All right, appreciate it, Tony. Welcome, everyone, back for another segment of Who's Hot around the AHL. I'm Nick Blazer. Kicking things off with the Atlantic Division, as always, the Charlotte Checkers. Their last 10 games, a 7-3 record, currently on a 2-game win streak, which started this past weekend. Currently sitting comfortably in second place in the Atlantic Division, 4th in the Eastern Conference, and an impressive record of 40-21, 3-3, good for 86 points, just behind the North's Rochester Americans in the East. Their top point getter this season, John Leonard, the forward, 58 points, 34 goals and 24 assists, 10 points in his last 10 games as well. Good for 8th best in the American Hockey League as far as point getting amongst forwards. Moving on to the North Division now, the Syracuse Crunch will be the team to watch. Their last 10 an 8-2 record and currently on a 5-game win streak. Monsters managed to avoid a regulation loss against the Crunch this year with a 2-0 1-1 record throughout their 4-game season series, which is currently finished. Syracuse sitting in 3rd place in the North, 7th in the Eastern Conference at 34-21, 7-1, good for 80 points in leading our Monsters by just 1 point. Their top point getter be Connor Sheary, the forward, 56 points on the year, 18 goals and 38 assists under his belt, and an impressive 13 points in the last 10 games played. Good for 13th in the American Hockey League, just trailing Cleveland's Trey Fix-Wolansky. On to the Central Division now. It'll be the Milwaukee Admirals, a 7-2-1 record in their last 10 and currently on a 3-game win streak, sitting in 1st place in the Central Division, 3rd in the Western Conference standings, trailing Colorado and Abbotsford. 37-21, 5-6 on the year for 86 points in total, just 1 win away from potentially tying 2nd place in the West with Abbotsford. Their top point getter, Cal O'Reilly, the veteran, 47 points this year in the form of 11 goals and 36 assists. Gliding our way into the Pacific Division, it'll be the red-hot Abbotsford Canucks, 13-0 in their last 13 games played, obviously 10-0 in their last 10. Their top point getter this season, Arshdeep Bains, 41 points on the year, 10 goals and 31 assists, 12 points in the last 10 games played, and he's currently locked up with 7 other players for 78th in the American Hockey League point-getting standings. Well, that'll do it for Who's Hot around the American Hockey League. I'm Nick Blazer. We'll be back with more Monsters OT right after this.
All right, time to wrap up another edition of Monsters OT, presented by Century Federal, right here on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Back alongside Brad Thiessen, Tony Brown here with you. And Brad, it's time for our True North Convenience Stores Monsters alumni segment. And for this one, as we've had so much fun looking at all the former players, I had to go upstairs to the broadcast booth, and let's talk about John Michael. He was the original voice of the Monsters. Now everybody knows the longtime TV and before that radio voice of the Cavs. But J. Mike, once upon a time, was setting the scene for Lake Erie Monsters hockey back from 07 to 09.
Yeah, who would have thunk it, going from hockey to basketball, but pretty cool for him to make that transition. Obviously being able to call some pretty iconic moments here in Cleveland for basketball.
For sure, and also on the hockey side too, is he was there for the sort of the unveiling of the Lake Erie Monsters and that brand, and he went on actually to work for the Columbus Blue Jackets as well. A couple of years later, he was in that sort of pre-intermission, post-game host role there, doing the interviews and stuff, but came back to the Cavs side on the radio, got to call the championship in 2016, and ever since on the TV side, carrying the great broadcasting tradition in this building, established by guys like Joe Tate and, of course, Brett McLeod on to new heights. So great to have J. Mike still around and still thrilling Cleveland fans with his tremendous abilities. All right, Brad, that's it for another show. This has been Monsters OT, presented by Century Federal. We want to thank Leo Simone, Jeremy Hawks, the rest of our outstanding crew. I want to thank you, Brad Thiessen, Nick Blazer as well, doing a great job. And most of all, thanks to you, the fans. We are getting almost there to playoff time as the Monsters, with just 5 games left in the regular season, hope before too long to punch their ticket to the Calder Cup playoffs. We'll see you next time on Rock Entertainment Sports Network.